Hey there, this is a basic guide about Genji in case you want to start playing with him or just want to know more about how to play the cyborg ninja of Overwatch. No advanced shenanigans and clickbaity title here, but we can promise to give you a good foundation that you can build on. Hello guys and welcome to the Dojo. Genji remains a community favorite to this day, but he's hard to start with if you have no experience with DPS characters. He's a nimble assassin, a flanker who's able to traverse the map really quickly and dash in and out to get kills. Genji's ultimate is one of the strongest DPS ultimates in the game, with a very high team kill potential. This guy was mostly made by one of the oldest Dojo community members, Jory, who made an extensive research analyzing different high-skill Genji players to bring you the best Genji guide around. Alright, the cyborg ninja has a really steep learning curve as it's hard to play mechanically, and it's also really challenging to see an opening in the enemy team that you can expose as Genji. You need good game knowledge and situational awareness, but this makes him a really rewarding pick. He can practically be used in any team composition, both in offense and in defense. Okay, that was the appetizer, now let's start with the basics. However, before we dive into Genji's mechanics, let's just quickly wrap our heads around the optimal mouse sensitivity. You want to play at a sensitivity high enough that you can comfortably flick 180 degrees around, but low enough that you can hit precise shots at long distances. Everyone has different preferences on mouse sensitivity, so find one that works best for you. If you need help figuring out the best one for you, check our video by clicking the card right now. His passive, Cyber Agility, allows him to double jump and wall climb. Use this to your advantage. Genji's verticality allows him to escape dangerous situations and buy time between cooldowns. You can use double jump to go over enemies' heads and confuse your opponents, but keep in mind that you're most predictable while falling. At low to medium ranks, try mixing some regular jumps in with your double jumps to throw them off. At higher ranks, a McCree or Widow will make quick work of you, so you may want to avoid double jumping while you're in their line of sight. As with all heroes, AD and strafing is always better than jumping. Be sure to do this. Dodging is an art in and of itself, and if you want to know more, check our video about that topic. Alright, back to the passive. You can use wall climb to get to high ground quickly, peek, or buy time between cooldowns. On maps with lots of vertical elements such as Iconwalder and Nimbani, use wall climbing to gain preferable positions from which you can threaten the enemy. Learning how to use wall climbing to get around will seriously up your Genji play. Look for spots that are uncontested and hard to reach and abuse them. Another use for wall climbing is to get to cover. If you're fighting someone on the ground and need to disengage, you can climb to safety. You can also get a few seconds of cover by jumping off a cliff or ledge, waiting a moment, then climbing back up the wall. This can sometimes buy you a few seconds to wait for your cooldowns, and is a great way to avoid some ultimates such as soldiers and divas. Be sure to practice this before trying it in a match though. You don't want your teammates to see your unintentional death in the kill feed. Genji's primary attack is 3 projectile shurikens thrown in a straight line. The left click rate of fire is 1 per second. He can also throw 3 shurikens slightly faster in a fan using his secondary fire, increasing his rate of fire to 1 right click every 0.73 seconds. The shurikens have a moderately long travel time, but they also have no damage drop off. While long distance shots are difficult to hit with the shurikens, you can often fire at a choke or cluster of enemies to get an easy pick or just some nice clean damage. For body shots, each shuriken does 28 damage for a total of 84 damage per attack. For headshots, that's 56 damage per shuriken, and a grand total of 168 damage per attack, if you manage to hit all your shots. Most of the time you're going to want to use your left click for medium to long range shots and your right click for short range. After some practice, you'll begin to understand which one to use in different situations. We already have a video about how to improve your aim with Genji, so be sure to check that out. Link will be in the description, or you can click the card right now. Genji's dash is possibly one of the most powerful tools in his arsenal. It's on an 8-second cooldown, but every single time you get an elimination that you participated in, your dash gets a reset. This ability sends Genji forward 15 meters and does 50 damage to anyone he dashes through. It's important to note that you can shorten the distance by aiming at the floor slightly before where you want to dash to. Double jumping before your dash can also make this a bit easier. We suggest going to the practice range and practicing both ways. This is a very useful thing to master, but is often overlooked by Genji players. While dash is a great tool for getting damage in, it's also Genji's primary way to escape a dangerous situation. So try to avoid dashing into an enemy if you're not confident you can get a kill and dash reset as a result. A general rule is to never engage in a fight when you don't have a way to disengage. Every time you dash through a group of enemies, you do damage to all of them, so dashing in to get a pick and dashing back out does 100 damage to anyone close enough. So try and line up as many opponents to go through when you dash. Throw a few shurikens while you're in the enemy's backline to get some extra damage in, then simply dash back to safety to finish them off. Be sure to coordinate with your team and call out low health enemies. An important skill to learn is when it's best to dash or throw shurikens to finish someone off. This is what a 200 HP enemy's health bar looks like at 50 HP. Anything above this and you want to throw a shuriken before your dash. If the enemy looks to be below 50 HP, dash without throwing the shuriken. Doing this helps in avoiding getting an elimination right away so we don't accidentally miss the reset. Practice is needed for this one, but it's your bread and butter as Genji. Genji's deflect ability lasts for 2 seconds and is on an 8-second cooldown. When activated, it reflects any projectiles hitting you back to where it came from. Reflect also blocks all damage from all melee attacks, including Reinhardt's hammer, but doesn't reflect any of the damage. The only thing that deflect doesn't work against are Symmetra's beam and turrets, Zarya's beam, Winston's Tesla cannons, and Mei's freeze. While this move is often used as a defensive move, it can also be used offensively. One of the key differences between an average Genji player and a good one is using the deflect to damage the enemy. For example, let's say that you're trying to push through a choke. If the enemy doesn't have any shielding, jump in front of your teammates and deflect. Be sure to aim at an enemy, preferably a healer. Reflecting damage back onto an enemy builds ultimate charge incredibly fast, so don't forget to use it. The way deflect works is by sending back any projectiles that would hit Genji, and making new ones that are technically fired by Genji. This means that a damage boosted projectile will lose its boost when reflected, but it also means that if you're damage boosted by a Mercy or a Risa's supercharger, anything you reflect is damage boosted too. It's worth noting that you can end your ability early by wall climbing. Just run up the closest one and it terminates immediately. This can be useful if a low health enemy is running away or no one is shooting you. Cancel your deflect and get right back to throwing shurikens. You can also end deflect early by dashing. You can use this to throw enemies off because they're usually expecting the timing of the full length ability. A really important topic about Genji is baiting. Baiting is when you attempt to get an enemy to use an ability or ultimate in order to kill you. In Genji's case, you try and bait out certain abilities so that you can reflect them, or just make sure that they're out of the equation, so you'll have more freedom to act. Say for example you're fighting a McCree. Before you go in for the kill, you want to make sure that you bait his flashbang. At lower levels in competitive, you'll find that most McCrees will try and flashbang as soon as you engage. But as you climb ranks, players will expect you to try and bait them, so you'll have to wait a bit longer before you can reflect. You can animation cancel a shuriken throw with deflect, so right click quickly followed by deflect can be a good way to bait. If the McCree doesn't flashbang, end your deflect early and dash to safety. You can also try to bait out abilities that you can't reflect, such as Tracer's Rewind. Here are some abilities that you can try to bait before engaging. McCree's Flashbang, Roadhog's Hook, Reinhardt's Fire Strike, Soldier's Helix Rocket, and Ana's Sleep Dart. In the case of Reinhardt's Flame Strike, Ana's Sleep Dart, and Roadhog's Hook, you can actually reflect them on reaction because of the short animation before they fire. This requires some practice, but once mastered, it can be very useful. Try to look for usual movement patterns and positions that give away what they're about to do. This is the secret to sending back ultimates like Zarya's Graviton too. Alright, if you want to master Genji, you need to start using ability combos. These are used to maximize damage in different situations. Being able to do any of these in different matchups will help you securing your kills. The first combo is left click into dash, into 180 flick, into right click animation cancelled by a melee. Done properly, this combo will kill any squishy you encounter. This is your kill combo. Learn it well. At close range, you should probably be using a right click melee combo. This combo will do up to 114 damage on body shots, so good to go for if the 200 HP enemy is just below half health. Right click and dash. You should make it a habit to quickly use your right click before you dash. Go for headshots with this combo. If you land your shuriken, it will do 106 damage. Follow it up with a right click and melee to finish off squishies. The last combo we'll be going over is a bit more advanced, but it's definitely worth practicing. Double jump over the enemy's head, then headshot them with a right click. Dash through them and use your right click melee combo to finish them off. Done perfectly, this combo will do over 300 damage in less than a second. This can be extremely annoying if done against you with any non-tank character, and this is what makes good Genjis a real threat in any 1v1 scenario. And now, what everyone's been waiting for. How to use Genji's ultimate, the Dragon Blade. Obviously, there's several ways to do this, but this technique should help you understand how to use his blade more efficiently. Dragon Blade lasts for 6 seconds, and gives you 7 slashes with your sword. Each slash does 120 damage to everyone within the sword hitbox. This means that it'll take 2 slashes to kill 200 HP targets. A slash dash combo won't kill them either. Since it only does 170 damage, it will require another slash. Let's talk about awareness. Before diving into the enemy, you want to make sure that you won't get shut down or denied. First of all, keep track of healer ultimates. If an enemy Zenyatta hasn't used Transcendence in a while, focus on taking him out or baiting his ultimate before ulting. You can either ask your team to focus him down to either force him to use Transcendence, or just straight up kill him. Other common counters to Genji's ultimate are McCree's Flashbang, Roadhog's Hook, Tactical Visor, Reinhardt's ultimate, Torbjorn's turret, Mercy's res, and Symmetra's turrets. Lucio can also boop you away, and if you don't have a dash, you're doomed. Be aware of where your potential counters are and be ready to reflect, eliminate, or avoid them. After making sure that you cannot be denied by the enemy, you can go in. Target healers and other squishies or anyone on low health. If you really don't have anything else, hit the tanks. It's important to try and damage the tanks while you're killing the squishies. When enemies are fairly close to each other, don't aim at one enemy in particular, but in between multiple enemies, so you damage more of them per slash. The sword's hitbox is rather large, so try to hit as many enemies with each slash as you can. This can really help you to get more eliminations during your ultimate, and we highly suggest practicing it. It's also worth noting that you can actually increase your reach slightly by aiming above or below your target, so give that a try as well. Another skill to practice is aiming your dashes. As we mentioned earlier, you can shorten the distance you dash by aiming at the floor. Start off by trying to dash the shortest distance you can. Once you become comfortable with that, continue increasing the distance until you've mastered it. There are lots of ways to attack enemies with your ultimate, but we suggest a slash and dash combo. Simply slash and animation cancel with an immediate dash. This combo will do 170 damage. This should also keep your dash up constantly since you're going to be finishing off enemies with a dash. It's also important to note that your dash gets reset after you activate Dragon Blade. We'll go over how to use this to your advantage momentarily. So try to keep the rhythm with slash to dash, or else you'll be sitting there with no mobility. Now that we've gotten the mechanics of Genji's ultimate out of the way, let's dive into some of the strategies behind it. We'll be covering synergies and how the enemy's team composition affects Genji's ultimate in our follow-up video. For now, we're only going to be covering Genji's ultimate and how to use it. You could use Dragon Blade to try and take out enemies one by one, but then most of the time you would only get a maximum of 3 eliminations. This usually involves dashing towards an enemy. Using Dragon Blade like this can be good in some situations, but in order to maximize your damage output, you should try taking a different approach. Lots of Genji players like to dash up into the air before ulting, then dash down to begin their attack. However, we wouldn't recommend doing this unless you have an Ana ready to nano boost you. It makes you an easy target for enemies, and wastes the potential for that dash. Instead, we suggest the following technique. Start off by looking for 2 or more enemies that you can dash through. Make sure that at least one of them is a squishy. Try to damage as many of them as possible with the dash so that a slash dash combo will finish them off. Once you've dashed through, activate Dragon Blade. Since your dash has now reset, turn around and use your slash dash combo to finish off the nearest healer or squishy. If this is done successfully, you will have killed at least one enemy with your first slash. Try to dash through the target so that you're lined up to take out your next target. The goal is to keep dash to finish off enemies or use it to get to a target further away. Throughout your ultimate, always try and hit as many enemies as you can with each slash. Once again, just for clarity's sake, the ultimate combo is dash through as many enemies as possible, activate Dragon Blade, use our slash and dash combo to finish off squishies and healers. If there's no one else close enough to use your slash dash combo on, dash to the nearest squishy or injured enemy. Try to go for groups of enemies instead of focusing on one at a time. Remember, if you've already used your dash to get to a squishy, it will take 2 slashes to finish them off. It may seem complex, but with enough time and practice, you can master Genji's Dragon Blade. Alright guys, that's it for the first part of our basic in-depth Genji guide. As usual, like, share, and subscribe if you love what we're doing. Leave a comment below with your thoughts about the guide. You can join our Discord to have a chat, and also get coached on our Patreon. Check the description. Alright guys, we'll see you in our next video.